I'm still getting a lot of questions. Could the RoboCab actually be the full meat-driven compact car? And all the signs point to no, but people still don't want to believe it. And I'm here to figure out if that's even going to be possible. I'm Brian. Welcome to Future Ozza. So I'm joined today by a couple of automotive experts. So if I say it and you disagree, I get it. But these are automotive experts. I've got Burt Sloan, a retired automotive engineer, and Ken Klemzak, a retired automotive engineer. If you've seen the channel before, you've seen these guys before. They're the real deal. Okay. So we heard in April the report from Reuters that the NV91 was canceled. And Elon was quick to say, no, we still have we have something coming, got an announcement, it's coming. What it is, I'm not going to tell you just yet. You'll have to wait for 1010. 8.8 and then 1010. I do not believe that the compact is coming. I think Elon said basically that on the earnings call. If you look at what he actually said, it sounds like it. But let's explore some reasons why it might not. And I'm going to start with the steering column. The steering controls, that they're no longer called wheels. Do we believe that they could just put a steering column in it? Or would you believe that there is real estate available that hasn't been consumed by another system?
Well, first off, I think that you would have to consider the steer-by-wire system. The lower part of the vehicle is currently configured for steer-by-wire. And if you were able to mount the steering wheel equipment, I think that it would fit there.
Do you think it would fit?
I think so.
Okay, so that part, it comes out as a maybe. Ken, you've worked quite a bit with airbags. Would there be complications for an airbag system on a wheeled, let's start with one that has a removable wheel.
I've never heard of an airbag with a removable wheel, but of course you can always package that airbag in the front, just like a passenger airbag. You have two passengers, so you have a passenger airbag up front, passenger airbag up front, no steering column airbag.
Mm-hmm. And it would go over the steering wheel just fine.
They would go over a steering wheel just fine, and if it's a passenger bag, it's just designed to bounce off the glass and
come back.
And you'd also have probably some knee bags.
Would the configuration need to be different in a one with a steering control versus one without? As in, could the one car have like a removable steering wheel and the airbag still be?
Oh, and bounce up over the top of it.
Because
it's possible. I don't think we would do something like that. I think it would be just a passenger airbag for both passengers.
Mm-hmm.
No steering wheel. If it's
right. So we can't realistically add a steering wheel without substantial complication. So that's the steering wheel part of it. One thing I keep hearing over and over from people who weren't at 1010. Ken, you were at 1010. You saw Dr. Know-It-All. You saw Dr. Scott Walter. You've seen many doctors. But you also got to...
I'm not a doctor.
Not a doctor. Got to see the Cybercab. Is there room for 2 more seats? No.
That back slopes down too fast for anybody's head to be in that area.
It slopes down real aggressively. Right. Well, what if we put the seats forward a couple inches?
Well, then you do mess up the whole aerodynamics and design of the whole car.
Right.
You want it as simple as possible.
As simple as possible. So the roof is too low. There is a wall there. What would the purpose of the wall behind the current passenger setup be, behind those 2 front rows? Is it to sound insulation, safety?
Well, certainly, first off, you have to have the barrier between the cargo area and running into the drivers, the
occupants,
the occupants.
And so it is a safety issue. Now, we know that some cars have a fold-down back seat in a sedan, but they didn't used to. That was not a thing for a long time. Like 90s cars, it's complicated. It adds a lot to it. So all we would have to do is change the wheelbase, the roof, and the structure. That's a different car. That's a different car. Another thought I had was, I'm going to guess that this motor does not have 300 horsepower. You don't need it. You probably need like 100. Do you think they would make a compact car that is human driven that doesn't have the fun factor?
No.
It'd need a different motor. So the motor would need to be different. Do you think they would make a human driven car that only has 200 miles of range?
So it'd be a personal vehicle where they would have to be traveling long distances. This is more just a short distance commuter.
This is exactly what we're talking about. So it would need a different battery, a different wheelbase, a different roof, definitely a different dash, but potentially all different airbags. That's a different car. So would you say that from what you've seen, it is reasonable to assume that we've got, that this is just a Cybercab?
Absolutely, I think.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, is there any way we could see it being a meat-driven car?
No.
I really don't.
I think that you have different design considerations for for a vehicle that's going to be driven by a human. Yeah, no.
I think the screen would need to be smaller. But that's easy. I think, now Bert, you've got some experience with wiring harnesses. This wiring harness, have you ever seen a car built somewhere other than a former communist state? And perhaps the Yugo had a simpler wiring harness.
This is going to have the simplest wiring harness.
How many buttons are in the car?
2.
2. And as far as we know, there's the motors for the door actuators, the motors for the windows, and then the brakes and steering controls, the cameras. And that's about it. Oh, the sound system and infotainment screen. And that's it. How does that compare with just the wiring for the emissions control system?
This is so much simpler. It's totally different harness.
It's very, very simplified. If we put a human into that configuration, we now need to start adding the buttons back in, the seat controls, the mirrors. The car has 3 pieces of glass and no mirrors, no heated systems, no control systems for the mirrors. Is there anything I'm missing on that?
And the size of the screen is just made for media consumption.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that we noticed when I was driving by. It's like, that's bigger than the Cybertruck.
Yeah, in a car that's quite a bit smaller.
Right.
And if you did put 4 seats in something, now you need to double the sound system because you've got all that extra space to fill, all the extra passengers to make happy. Is there anything we're missing on why it couldn't be, because it would need a different battery, different motors, different windows.
Yes, designing to be an autonomous vehicle, this small two-person vehicle, there's no reason to be going through attempting to make this be human driven.
Yeah, and it feels like that's the direction that the company went because they needed to. Anyone who's been using the newer versions of 12.5, I think would agree that we're close. We're getting there. We are seeing step changes, and that's why we keep getting the free demos.
And extended.
And in my case, extended. Yeah, they bumped it out a month. Thank you kindly for that. Good folks at Tesla AI. So I think if the AI part doesn't work, it's a problem. But if it does work, everything else kind of stops mattering. So in the comments, I know you guys have more questions. If you get them to me, I can try to pass them on to Ken and Bert, who are gracious enough to share of their time. What did we miss? What did we miss to understand? Leave it in the comments below. We're going to have a part 2 coming up where we discuss the impossible and the must-have tech that will make its way into the Cybercab. because that's a very big topic too. But we got to keep these short. And I cannot wait to hear from you clever robots on the flippity flop.